Okay. Hey, everybody. You probably weren't expecting to see me this week. I wasn't expecting to be. We'll get into it. We'll get into it. First, let's make sure everything's live. Let's make sure YouTube, are you coming to life for us? Yes, you are. Rockfin, where are you? Rockfin, are you? Rockfin, what's up? There you are. Okay, Rockfin was a little slower. Twitter was first. Twitter's always first. YouTube came in second. Rockfin third. What's up, everybody? As my headphones fall a little bit, what's going on? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning if you're in a morning time zone, and to everyone listening to the podcast later, how's it going? I hope all is well and you're doing well. Some of you who are catching this live might be thinking, "This is random, Ron. You never stream at this time. What's going on? Aren't you supposed to be in Iceland? What is happening?" Well, I got COVID. You may have seen that on social media. I did get COVID. So full disclaimer here in advance. If at any point I sound a little out of it or a little tired or loopy, I am getting through COVID. I am feeling a lot better, but I'm definitely still feeling a little fatigued here. So doing my best. I know that's setting up for a flawless show, right? It's like I have COVID and I'm going to do my best. Tune in. But anyway, I'm getting through it. I had to postpone my trip to Iceland. I had to postpone the Iceland shows, which is a bummer. Hopefully, I will be rescheduling those next year. The Northwest dates are still on: Portland, Seattle, Vancouver. Can't wait to see you. I'm really looking forward to that because I'm really itching to get out there after falling sick here and having to postpone some other dates. But anyway, we're going to get right to it. Antitrust summer is amidst us, and they recently, Fight for the Future has been showing video billboards in front of Chuck Schumer's residences in New York and Washington, D.C. to get him to act on those antitrust bills. But helping me through this, I have a special guest who we're going to have a brief conversation about what antitrust legislation means to really be able to do innovative things on the internet, innovative and sustainable things on the internet. Because one of the big pieces here is that right now, the internet is in a very monopolistic place where just a handful of companies, Amazon, Google, Apple, they pretty much control everything. And it's really holding back the future of this medium. And here to discuss this with me is a gentleman named Sean O'Brien, who you may know from the application Panquake. Some of you are already familiar with Panquake, some of you aren't. We're going to do a future episode where we do a very deep dive into Panquake. We've covered it in the past. We'll keep covering it. It's a new social media application. But today, Sean's here to really talk about the importance of antitrust legislation to what he's trying to do. Sean, how are you?
Could be better.
Yeah. Couldn't we all? What a week, man. I'm like, man, I wish I was doing my shows in Iceland. I'm kind of bummed out, but at least the news has been great. At least it's
Yeah,
just been one doozy after another. Just wonderful stuff, man.
plenty to pay attention to, that's for sure. And I'm sure Iceland, we love Iceland. It's a wonderful jurisdiction. But yeah, so on the antitrust front, some of your viewers may also know, I founded something called Yale Privacy Lab. That's Privacy Lab at Yale Law School. And we work with Fight for the Future, which is a great advocacy group that has been extremely influential throughout the battles for net neutrality and all these things to try to make
Yeah,
sure.
and full disclaimer, I collaborate with them too, just so we're being totally transparent here. I got a Fight for the Future t-shirt on. I'm helping them with this campaign, so yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's good to of course, let people know. Yeah, they do. I mean, look, what we're doing right now would not be possible without the kind of work that they do, right?
Yeah.
So that advocacy, around things like net neutrality and so on, and some battles won, some battles lost, unfortunately. The stuff we've done at Privacy Lab around, for example, facial recognition bans and, trying to make it so that people are less surveilled in their private lives and in their public lives, just walking down the street. That's the kind of thing that they've been very, very good on. They are supporting, and as you said, they're driving vans in front of Chuck Schumer's house, with video on them, supporting these two bills that are going through Congress. And these bills are a long, long time in the making. So we'll see what happens. The first one is called the American Innovation and Choice Online Act.
Mm-hmm.
So long acronym.
ACOA for short.
There you go. Everybody will remember it, I'm sure. And
Yeah.
then the Open App Markets
Oh
Act,
my.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
And those two they have similar kinds of aims, but coming at the problem from different areas, right? So, as we all know, I mean, we basically have a few overlords on the internet, right? We've got the Googles, we've got the Amazons, we've got the Apples, we've got the Microsofts, right? And the Facebooks, and not to forget Facebook, of course. And these groups control a large amount of the information that flows through this beautiful network that we've built over the last 20, 30 years, right? We've seen the abuses of that. We've seen the censorship from that. We've seen all kinds of issues with anti-competitiveness. So these bills strike at the heart of that sort of antitrust, that old-fashioned sort of trust-busting, attitude
Yeah.
of saying, "Hey, these monopolies are way too large. They swallow up everyone in their sight, and when they can't, they ruin businesses that could flourish and be amazing, and by extension, ruin free speech." So I could go into the details. I don't know how much you want me to dig into, but
Well, I want to talk a little bit more specific about, with Panquake, and we don't have to get into all the ins and outs of Panquake right now. We'll do a deeper dive in the future, but the essential thing with Panquake is it's trying to be a social media alternative. It's trying to be, and it's got all kinds of cool features. I can't wait until it goes live. I'm really looking forward to it. And I haven't even seen the most up to date demo quite yet, but the last one I saw, I loved. Um, so you guys are really trying to build a special thing. And, without antitrust legislation, you will be at the mercy, especially like when you guys want to have an app. Well, you're going to be at the mercy of Google and Apple. You're going to have to pay these exorbitant fees, which is going to hurt your ability to sign people up because they're going to be taking so much that it's going to be really hard for you guys to sustain yourself. They have these ridiculous commission fees. So any alternative apps, which you guys are an alternative app, you're going to get hit really freaking hard. And, like a COA, I guess that doesn't affect something like Panquake as directly because that's more about Google and Amazon favoring their own products and services above everything else. But it's also totally feasible that they could really data scrape from Panquake. So when somebody's searching for Panquake, maybe they don't get actual panquake.com until like the second freaking page. Instead, you just have all this Google arranged verbiage to keep you clicking on that. And then guess what? You don't get a sign up.
right. Right. So you identified two things, and it's good to talk about them with those two different acts, right? So imagine I'm a startup that wants to build a decentralized, freedom of speech respecting app. I want people to
Imagine.
use. Yeah, imagine. Imagine I want people to use it. Imagine I call it Panquake. But, I mean, I also want to say there's a lot of other apps that are doing some cool things that are going to be in similar boat. The two problems you identify are correct. The first one is that, the ability to find the app in the first place, search engine listings, even seeing, that this thing exists in social networks, not having it, shadow banned or tweets about Panquake, sort of, magically disappearing from people's timelines. That's the first one. And that's a big enough problem to get through. But then there's also the second problem, right, which is the app stores. Most people, and especially younger generation, are computing through their phones. Now, I have a long history with the app stores. People can look up Sean O'Brien Android or Sean O'Brien App Store or whatever. You'll see I've done a number of security analyses of apps in both Google Play and in Apple's iOS App Store. The stewards of these app stores, Google and Apple, they do a horrific job protecting you as a user. But their excuse for controlling, these marketplaces is they're going to make sure you never end up with, malicious apps that destroy your life. And yet that happens, right? Instead, they're focused on, as you said, making sure that they can shave money off the top. As we know from the Apple versus Fortnite case, right? They take a large percentage because they don't want to have people have a business model that goes outside of Apple's, grasp. So an app like Panquake, on two fronts, it's going to be problematic. We're going to do our best to build as much as we can for Android and Apple iOS. But especially with Apple, I would say, it's going to be really, really difficult to get around these restrictions. Basically, you can be booted off of these app stores just for having internal policies, right? Moderation policies that they feel aren't strict enough. And we've seen that with a number of social platforms that have gotten kicked out of these app stores. But also, even if you have a successful business, whatever you're doing, you'd be doing video games, right? Like the Fortnite folks. And they're going to just shave off so much of a percentage that it basically ruins your ability to, actually, have a normal subscription model. What they're trying to do is make sure that apps are locked into their app store and that they have to be advertising surveillance companies to succeed. Just like Apple's an advertising surveillance company, just like Google's an advertising surveillance company, they don't want folks to step outside of those bounds. So this kind of protectionism goes well beyond what we would traditionally call antitrust, but it's a reinforcement of that sort of monopoly model. Interesting, I hope, for future generations, assuming we have those, to look back and see how crappy this whole situation is. But we need to break this thing down now as much as possible. And that's the kind of work Fight for the Future is doing a great job of sort of bringing to the front. These bills have a very good chance of at least making an impact. And who knows what will happen with the legislation, but you should go out to antitrustsummer.com and make sure that you're making your voice heard around all of this. So.
Thank you for this. And Sean, I got to point this out. I've seen a few comments here and there on the internet of people skeptical of these bills, and they're worried about signing the petition because they're worried about their information. Meanwhile, all it is like just different digital rights groups like Fight for the Future who just want to update you on the campaign.
That's
And
right.
if you're that offended by getting that in your inbox, you can unclick the box and they won't send you anything. All they want to do is update you on the campaign. If you don't want it, you can unclick the box. And some of those people have Panquake as their handle. And I know these are well-intentioned people, but I just would be like, I'm like, Sean, you realize that they need this. You realize you want to see Panquake succeed. They support this because they know they need it. Like, these are the good guys, dude.
Yeah, I understand, of course, nobody wants to put their identity out there, but we have to have some political power and, it can help to back this kind of legislation. So I get it. It does just point out, we all really care about this stuff. And if we actually care about our privacy, we're going to have to break down, these monopolies. And, maybe you don't feel like supporting this legislation and I can't force you to, but these moments don't come often. This took about 3 years to build up this legislation. I'm not going to say panquake.com like officially is like backing this or anything because we're not going to.
You're speaking as Sean. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. But if we're able to break down these kinds of monopolies, then we can have, third-party apps that really, we're replacement apps. We're going to replace this stuff if we're allowed to do it. And, if nothing else, take a look at the issue, see what you think. And worst comes to worst, at least be on the sidelines and cheering for us. That much we care about. So,
well, Sean, thank you so much for stopping by a little bit and helping me break this down. And thank you for your thoughts. And I look forward to collaborating with you more and more in the future, man. And I know you're like just kind of hovering on campus right now. So thanks for making some time for me.
Yeah, and I just want to say the folks, whatever you do, go to panquake.com, check it out. We've done some amazing stuff. And if you can donate, I know it's rough times for a lot of people, but if you can find it, we've made good so far and we've done amazing things. So thank you all very much.
All right, man. Be well. See you soon.
Yep.
Peace. Sean O'Brien from Panquake, breaking it down, the importance of this issue. So here, let me show you guys the Here's the billboard. This is the billboard going around. This is from Fight for the Future, happening right now. We have parked video billboard trucks outside of Senator Schumer's residences in D.C. and New York, playing the Last Week Tonight segment on the big tech antitrust bills, ACOA and OMA, as we talked about here. Now, you can also go. You could tweet Chuck Schumer directly. You could go to MakeSchumerWatchJohnOliver.com. That's MakeSchumerWatchJohnOliver.com. And by the way, you might be thinking, hey, I don't agree with everything John Oliver does. I don't either. But this particular segment, his segment on these antitrust bills, was very excellent. And it really breaks it down in an awesome way. It's a very good segment. I don't agree with every single view I've ever heard on that show. I don't agree with every single view I've ever heard on most shows, to tell you the truth, but especially not shows in the corporate sphere. But when it comes to digital rights, they really nail it over on John Oliver's show. They nailed it on net neutrality. They nailed it on this antitrust stuff. So, hey, let's put the pressure on to Chuck Schumer. So that's the update there. And yeah, thanks again to Sean. And check out panquake.com and check out antitrustsummer.com and sign the petition now if you haven't. I signed the petition now. And yes, for anyone tuning in, I am dealing with COVID. So if at some point I just repeat myself, it sounds a little out of it. You might think, Ron, you actually do that on a regular basis anyway. You'd be kind of right. Actually, I do that. But yeah, I mean, it'll be even more so. Even more so than usual, folks. Even more so than usual. So antitrustsummer.com. Please sign the petition. Please let your officials know. You don't need to. These are just digital rights groups, okay? All they want to do is just email you about the campaign. And if you don't want to get those emails, just unclick the box and you won't even get that, all right? They're not giving your information to anybody. It takes 40 seconds to do. Please, I can't force you to sign it if you really don't want to, but please consider it. Antitrustsummer.com. Like Sean said, opportunities like this don't come along too often. You might think, well, these antitrust bills don't solve everything or single problem in the digital rights space. Well, of course they don't. No single piece of legislation does. But this is a huge thing in opening up the gates here. This is a huge thing in leveling the playing field. And if you support things like panquake.com, legislation like this is infinitely important to make them possible. We have a huge monopolistic problem on the internet right now. And without antitrust legislation, it's not going to get better. All right. So there we go. And yeah, check that out. You can go to fightforthefuture.org to support everything they got going on there, and antitrustsummer.com. Please do sign. All right. And let's see here. There is so much stuff to talk about that, wow. So let's talk about a post-Roe freaking world here. We'll start with Roe. We'll go to the whole, like, hey, you could just lead a prayer whenever you feel like it now. Just go ahead and post your religious views on whoever you want. We don't care anymore. We'll go there next. But we'll start here. Abortion rights are going to land on California's November ballot. Well, as you guys know, Roe v. Wade was overturned, which, hey, it was great for me. I was just sitting around. I'm like, hey, I'm bummed out. I'm not going to Iceland for my shows, but at least the news is awesome. It's a big bummer having COVID, not being in Iceland, and instead just being sick with COVID. But at least the news is just a doozy. Just good news all around. It's just great. Abortion rights land on California's November ballot. So here's what we're doing here in California. California voters will decide in November whether to amend the state constitution to protect abortion and contraception, a move that has taken on even greater urgency following Friday's Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. Now, the proposed amendment needs 2/3 approval from both houses to qualify for the ballot. So this might be on the ballot here in California. I, of course, will be supporting it. And, we knew that the Supreme Court wanted to do this. We knew that this was on the docket for them. And there's nothing I have to say there that I haven't said before. The Supreme Court, I mean, saying that the Supreme Court exists to uphold the law, it's like saying that the Chucky cheese animatronics band is the same thing as Led Zeppelin or something. Like they're not real. Like they're not a real they don't care about all they do is they interpret the law to fit their dogma. They're a bunch of religious extremists and they interpret the law to fit their dogma. And then they're used as a political football to say to voters, "Hey, we're going to appoint more extremists who you don't like to interpret the law the way they want it to unless you vote for us." That's what the Supreme Court is. It's just a political football and just a kind of theocratic tool. Doesn't give a hoot about what most of the country thinks. And that's why when people say, well, don't you respect the office? No, I don't. I don't respect that system. These are unelected lifetime appointments of a bunch of religious zealot fanatics. And they have no connection to regular people. These are the type of people, if they were sitting at a bar, they would walk everybody around them within 10 minutes. And these are the people who get to decide the most important laws of the land. These people. People who you wouldn't have a beer with in a million frickin' years. If you just talk to them for like 10 minutes, you'd be like, holy shit, they're nuts. And, you know, here, let me find the Rob and Marty book again. I meant to have that. I meant to have that planned ahead of time, and I'm sorry I didn't have it ahead of time because I'm dealing with COVID, folks. So I kind of I forget some things here occasionally. But there's a book called Handbook for a Post-Roe America, and here I'm gonna just share the link. All right, there is a handbook called a book called Handbook for a Post-Roe America. You can get a free ebook from Seven Stories Press, who published it right now. So if you want to really see what you can do, this is a free ebook, the new Handbook for a Post-Roe America. It's from Seven Stories Press. This book is by Rob and Marty. I read this book a couple years ago. Now you can buy this book for $7.19. If you can afford to buy it, please do. If you can't, totally get the free ebook. And if you want to support these folks, just buy something from them so that you can support a small publisher. I guarantee you, small book publishers do not make very much money, if any. So it's not easy for them to just give away things for free. But you are able to get this free ebook if you need it. So please do support them if you can. I read this book in 2019. And the reason I read it was because I was engaged at the time, married now. It worked out. Sometimes when you say I was engaged at the time, it almost sounds like, like it didn't actually, but it's like, no, I'm married now. Hence the engagement is over. We're past the engagement stage. Now we're married. And we've gotten COVID together. We've still not been on a honeymoon. So we got to get to that honeymoon. My wife and I did both get COVID here. And Lucy's okay. I was quarantining from Lucy the best I could. But she, I mean, I can only do so much. We don't have a very big place. So, I mean, there was only so much I could do as far as quarantining from her. But she, knock on wood, has just been herself. She's actually been the nurse for the two of us. Lucy's been the healthy one, kind of just keeping the household together. And, she seemed totally fine. It's not, to my understanding, it's not super common for animals to get it. They can get it. And if they do, it's also not super common for them to show any symptoms. And usually if they do have symptoms, it's not anything major. So, one step at a time, but it's still, you still worry about your pets, right? So yeah. And my wife is doing okay. So that's pretty much where we're at here. And, as far as living in a post-Roe America goes, now is the time to really look around in your community and say, okay, am I doing everything I can to try to make this community better? Am I doing everything I can within reason, within my ability to try to make my community as good as it can? I understand that because I live in a place like California, there are certain things that I don't have to deal with as a reality that some people in other states have to deal with as a reality right now. I understand that. So if you live in a situation like that, maybe you live in a California or New York or something like that. Well, okay, like, is there somebody who might not be in as fortunate of a circumstance that I can help? And those are the kind of things we really need to be thinking about. I know it's not glamorous. I know it's not fun, but that is just where we're at. Because this Supreme Court is not stopping. In fact, we're going to be talking about some of the other stuff they did. In fact, let's go there first. And then we're going to go to another court situation here with a little lady named Ghislaine Maxwell who got sentenced. But first, check this out. This is another ruling that they had. Supreme Court backs coach in praying on field after games. So this coach, and by the way, they're trying to downplay what this actually was. The Supreme Court said Monday that a high school football coach who knelt and prayed on the field after games was protected by the Constitution. Court ruled 6-3 for the coach, conservative justice in the majority and liberals in dissent, of course, because this has nothing to do with the law. This has nothing to do with the separation of church and state. This has everything to do with we're using our dogma to get laws. That's all this is. That's all the Supreme Court is. The case forced the justices to wrestle with how to balance the religious and free speech rights of teachers and coaches with the rights of students not to feel pressure into participating in religious practices. So here's what the guy did. He was basically praying out in the middle of everything. And of course, if you play for this guy, you're going to feel pressure to join in. You're going to feel pressure. Oh, okay, well, he's praying and he's my coach and I want to play. So I'm going to do everything I can to score points with the guy. So I'll pray too. And you could see the footage from this. That's what it was. It wasn't like, you know why? Because if it was something subtle, if it was something out of sight, out of mind, we wouldn't even be hearing about it. Why do you say that, Ron? Well, because that kind of stuff has always happened. There are plenty of times where you'll be watching a sporting event and you'll see a player, like maybe they have religious beliefs, so they bless themselves or something like that. Or they just kind of take a moment of silence to themselves. That's never been an issue. No one has ever cared. That's somebody's business. Who cares? What you can't do, well, now you can, actually, but what you shouldn't do is impose that on other people by saying, hey, here's a prayer circle. We're going to do it right in the middle of everything. This is what we're doing. And imposing that if you are at a secular institution. If you're at a religious institution, well, that's different. You're a religious institution. By the way, must be nice. You don't pay a dime of taxes. You get to use all the same public services as everyone else. Don't pay a dime in taxes. I mean, what a racket. What a freaking racket. It's like George Carlin said, man, when it comes to pure just bullshit, getting away with it, man, a businessman has nothing on a clergyman. Nothing. What a racket. Take in billions of dollars a year, pay zero in taxes. Not a freaking dime. And now you can just impose your will wherever you want. You can impose it in public institutions too. This is going to make it easier for them to just have prayer in public schools. And you know that's what they're going to try next. And hey, thoughts and prayers are our solutions for school shootings. So I guess now they're making it easier for the praying part. The solutions, thoughts, and prayers. Well, now it's easier. How is this so? And I really do not get the people who do the mental gymnastics for this stuff. Religious liberty just means you can practice whatever religion you want. And you can. Any religion you want to practice, you can go practice it. Here's what you don't have the right to do. You don't have the right to infringe your views on other people and impose it on them or harm them with your religious views. You don't have the right to do that because you have the right to practice whatever you want. So guess what? So do they. And maybe their religious views are different than yours. Maybe they don't have religious views. And they want to be able to send their kids to school, to a public school where that sort of thing is not imposed on them. I'm one of those people. I was raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school. There are a large number of reasons that if I ever populate this planet, I don't want that for my kids. I don't want them to grow up with religion at all. If they discover it on their own and decide it's for them, that's their business. That's fine. But I don't want it to be forced upon them in a public school. That's why I wouldn't send my kids to a religious school. I would send them to a public school so that that kind of shit's not shoved down their throats. But now I guess you can't avoid it. I mean, how is this that difficult? Like it's not that freaking hard. You can practice whatever you want. Just don't impose it on other people. That's too hard. Apparently, for these religious extremists, that's too hard for them. And by the way, I have read the Bible cover to cover. Christians, I don't know if you know this. Your boy, Jesus, that guy you worship, although you seem to kind of miss a lot of the things that dude actually said, allegedly said. I'm not even convinced the guy existed, but the stuff he allegedly said, you're really picky and choosy with that. Here's a fun fact about your Savior. He was against public prayer. Matthew 6:5 or 6:6, something like that. He was against freaking public prayer. Okay. You know, if you have religious views, that's fine. You're allowed to believe whatever you want. But here's a suggestion. Actually know about the shit you're subscribing to. Maybe read the fucking books. And two, you don't get to infringe that on other people. You don't get to infringe it on other people. You don't get to impose that on other people. It's really not that hard. So if you're a coach of a team and you want to pray, okay, you go stand in a corner by yourself. You have a moment of silence to yourself. That's fine. That happens all the freaking time. If you watch a sporting event on TV, you will probably see some player or some coach or somebody do that. No one's ever had a problem. People are misrepresenting what actually happened there. They're making it out like the coach was just in a corner quietly by himself and just saying, "Oh, I just want to give thanks to my Savior. I just want to have a quick." And they were like, "What are you doing? Stop that! Stop that! You have religious beliefs. That's not allowed here. That's not what frickin' happened. What happened was he was having these big prayers in the middle of things." They're like, "Oh, the students were free to do whatever they wanted." Yeah, technically, but you're right in the middle doing this prayer. The students are going to feel pressure to join in because you're an authority figure to them. You're not just any authority figure to them. You're the freaking coach. You're supposed to be someone who, I have seen Friday Night Lights. It's actually a very enjoyable show, mind you. It's a fun show. And the football coach there, he said, when someone asked him what his job is, he said, "I am a molder of men." And he was actually a good coach. It wasn't like in Varsity Blues where like the coach is the bad guy. He's a good guy in this show. Like the coach is a good dude. And he's a cool, I liked him. Obviously I didn't agree with everything he had to say about him. It was kind of small town football, Texas mentality. And I was kind of pulling for the weirdo who played in the metal band. I don't remember the characters, but he said, "I'm a molder of men." He saw himself as a teacher, as a leader. That's what a coach is to a lot of people who play. And for a lot of high school athletes, football might be their way out. That might be their way out of their small town. That might be their way out of just working at a factory if they're lucky for the rest of their life. That might be their way out of going into the military. There's a lot of kids that it's their way out. So yeah, they're going to feel pressure that if you're praying, they're going to want to join in on that. Because you are their coach. You have so much power over their future and over who they are. And you're supposed to be leading by setting a good example for them, not imposing your religious beliefs on them. That's not what you're supposed to do. So what a shame. And what a shame to just the religious extremists out there that just want to take this place into a total straight up authoritarian theocracy, which we're there. The United States is a fascist authoritarian theocracy. That's not an embellishment. That's the frickin' truth. That is definitionally what it is. And it's amazing. I mean, I remember having these debates in college over public prayer and over gay rights and over Roe v. Wade. And you kind of think, okay, we won that one. We're moving forward with that one. People have the right to an abortion. Get over it. And here we are going backwards. We have gone backwards about 40 years. That's the direction this society is heading in. And by the way, Republicans do not have control of any house of government right now. They don't have the White House. They don't have the Senate. They don't have the House. And Democrats could have codified Roe v. Wade for years. They didn't do it. Barack Obama could have fought for a Supreme Court pick that was rightfully his. He didn't do it. They could have done anything to stall at least one of Trump's picks. They did nothing. They did nothing. RBG could have retired. She didn't. I mean, all the list goes on, and you're going to see the same record spun again. It's Bernie Bros, it's Jill Stein, it's blah, blah, blah. It's none of those things. It's the duopoly, because they're on the same Wall Street sponsored team. And the Democrats have rolled over for years and years while Republicans played offense. And it's by design. You want to talk sports? The Democrats are the Washington Generals. How long is it going to take you before you realize the Washington Generals aren't trying to win the frickin' game? A lot more people are waking up to it. A lot more people are waking up to it, and they're saying, what the hell? That's why you're seeing Nancy Pelosi getting booed off stage at events. But the thing is, well, what do we do about it now? Here's what we do about it now. Direct action, strikes, protests, policy-based initiatives. Go into antitrustsummer.com. Because guess what? Chuck Schumer would love to not keep his promise and bring those bills to the floor. And we see what happens when they don't keep their promises, don't we? We see what happens when we say, oh, yeah, they're going to codify it into law. They promise they're going to do it. They'll get to it any day now. Well, gee, what happened? It is disturbing. It is disturbing how backwards we are going. Meanwhile, the climate is collapsing. Our entire society is just going down the toilet. And this is what they're spending their time doing. They're not giving relief to people. They're not doing anything about the rising costs of goods and services. They're not doing anything about the rising costs of rent. They're not doing anything about that. You can't survive in the United States anymore. Most people are literally priced out of this country. And they're making an authoritarian theocracy out of it. That's what they're doing. And it is so hard. It is so hard not to listen to these literal neo-fascists, which is what the GOP is. They're literally theocratic neo-fascists cheering this stuff on. And then you look at these milquetoast liberals just blaming everyone except for the system, yelling at you to vote blue no matter who. And you can't help but look at this stuff and be like, you know what? Have fun. Good luck. You know what? This is your country. Have fun. Knock yourself the fuck out. Because as a leftist in this country, I'm told to leave every goddamn day by everybody. And it's hard not to be like, you know what? Have fun. This is your thing. All right? This is the world you wanted to create. Have fun. You helped create it. I hope you like the world you helped create. I hope you like the world you helped create by supporting the neocon machine, by supporting these religious zealots, by supporting these corporate Democrats, by stifling any type of grassroots power. This is the world you wanted. Now you got it. But I know that there's a lot of people out there that don't want this world the same way I don't. They don't want it to be this way either. And that's why shows like this exist. And goddamn, we got to get every win we can in every place we can get it. So again, antitrustsummer.com, folks. Antitrustsummer.com. Oh, man. Oh, man. So, let's talk about Ghislaine Maxwell for a little bit. She got sentenced today. So here's a headline just straight from CNN. This happened literally a couple hours ago. Ghislaine Maxwell sentenced to 20 years in prison for sex trafficking minor girls for Jeffrey Epstein. Let's talk about a couple of her quotes here. This is interesting. I'm just going to read this for a bit. Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison Tuesday for carrying out a years-long scheme with her longtime confidant, Jeffrey Epstein, to groom and sexually abuse underage girls. Maxwell, 60, did not testify in her defense during the trial last year. She just didn't say anything, which ended up with her conviction on 5 counts, including sex trafficking of a minor. But on Tuesday, she spoke in court to the victims shortly before the sentence was handed down. Here we go. This is her quote. Ready? Jeffrey Epstein should have been here before all of you, Maxwell said at her podium, her legs shackled. It's not about Epstein ultimately. It is for me to be sentenced. Maxwell, Epstein's former girlfriend, acknowledged that she had been convicted, but stopped short of taking responsibility. Here's what she said. Listen to how eerie this is. I am sorry for the pain that you've experienced. I hope my conviction brings you closure. She's playing the victim. Now, she's not a victim. Neither is Jeffrey Epstein, obviously. She is not a victim. She is evil. They're all evil. And everybody involved with this is evil. And we're not going to know the extent of it. We're not going to know the extent of the customer base. We're not going to know the extent of who's who. Jeffrey Epstein, in many ways, was likely just a middleman. He was likely just mid-level. There's people way more freaking powerful than him. Way more. Man. And now it's like, do you have any closure? I mean, we're not going to know anything about what she knows. She's just basically pleading the fifth, so they just sentence her. They gave her 20 years. Who knows what that 20 years is going to actually look like, though? And who knows if she'll serve the whole thing? Oh. And I think everybody sort of just knew this going in. People just kind of knew we're not gonna, because if she would have made a decent deal already. She hasn't. So either she doesn't know enough for them to be excited about it, or she's just not going to talk. Or worst case, worse, they just don't have any interest in what she has to say. So yeah, that's about all I can even muster to say about that. Just on the spot. You know what I mean? Not on the spot, but it's just like it just happened today. So you're just kind of taking it all in, and you're thinking, well, I mean, I kind of knew this was likely what's going to happen, but I mean, you knew they weren't just going to let her off because it's like they had to. But anyway, prosecutors had asked the judge to sentence her to 30 to 55 years, while the probation department recommended 20. Maxwell attorneys requested a more lenient sentence between 4.25 and 5.25 years in prison. How do you defend somebody like that? Judge Allison Nathan calculated that the sentencing guidelines, blah, 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 blah. She delivered above the range. Okay. So here's what they said. Miss Maxwell is not punished in place of Epstein. Miss Maxwell is being punished for the role that she played. Heaven forbid we try to get any information so that we can maybe prevent stuff like this in the future. We're not going to do that. The 20-year sentence represents a pivotal moment in an international sex trafficking case that stretched over decades and exemplified the ways that the rich and powerful can avoid, or at least delay, consequences for their actions. That's putting it gently. Maxwell was also sentenced to 5 years of supervised release and a $750,000 fine, so they're saying she's unable to pay that. She definitely has plenty of resources or access to plenty of resources. I mean, she comes from a very rich family. Judge Nathan, I hope you consider. Annie Farmer, one of the victims, asked the judge to consider the lasting effects of Maxwell's behavior on her victims. Judge Nathan, I hope when you consider the appropriate prison sentence for the role Maxwell played in this sex trafficking operation, you take into account the ongoing suffering of many of the women she abused and exploited, as we will continue to live with the memories. Another victim, identified only as Kate, said Maxwell's final insult was her lack of remorse after being found guilty. She said Maxwell was a manipulative, cruel, and merciless person. Yeah, I mean, you definitely get that vibe. I mean, those quotes that we read, she clearly has no remorse. She doesn't even feel like she did anything wrong, or at least she's not showing that. Like she's saying, like, well, I hope this gives you closure. You should be hearing Jeffrey, but this is about me. I mean, clearly that's no remorse whatsoever. And she's just been an eerie, creepy character this entire time. I mean, remember a couple years back where they showed her, it was after they brought in Epstein, and she was just sitting there at an In-N-Out burger, which, by the way, have some better taste. You're very rich. But anyway, she's sitting there. She has an FBI book. She's just sitting there stoically reading it. Like she was basically saying, come get me. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So, man. And we'll see what happens. Well, I mean, nothing more will probably happen. She got sentenced. We'll see if she serves all 20 years. I doubt she will. And we're never going to know anything about what she knows. And that really sucks because this is a very serious issue that's happening that's ruining people and ruining children. And it's, yeah. Like the article said, powerful people, they get away with stuff. They get away with stuff. So, man, what a time. What a time. Yeah, and for anyone just tuning in, by the way, I am battling COVID, so I'm a little loopy. I hope you understand. And but I really wanted to go live today to talk about Antitrust Summer and to talk about the importance of these bills when it comes to innovation on the internet. That's why Sean O'Brien, who's working on Panquake, helped me through that. So thank you to Sean again for showing up. Guys, I'll mention a few more quick things before I sign off here. First of all, Iceland, I'm sorry. I wish I was out there with you right now. I'm supposed to be in Iceland right now for my shows. I had to cancel those shows or postpone those shows at least because of COVID. I am trying to reschedule Iceland for next summer. I'm just going to tack it on to my UK plans. I was planning on touring the UK some in 2023, so I'll just add Iceland to it. Those are my plans. So I'm sorry about that. Northwest, I can't wait to see you. Those shows are still on. Portland, Seattle, Vancouver. That's July 28th, Portland, Oregon. July 29th, Seattle, Washington. July 30th, Vancouver, British Columbia. That's myself and Graham Elwood, some co-headlining shows. You can go to romplicone.com for those tickets. And I can't wait to see you. You know, I've been able to tour some this year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do everything I had planned because I had to postpone Iceland. So I really can't wait to see you up in the Northwest. Those are my last tour dates for 2022. I'm going to start planning 2023 after that. I am going to have to think about Iceland in 2023. So, you know, please, Northwest, I can't wait to see you. Get those tickets, roplaco.com. Venetia David, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. You help keep the show on the air, and I really appreciate you doing that. Hi, Ron. I hope you are recovering swiftly. Thank you for pushing ahead with your antitrust activism, even in your time of convalescence. Thank you for that, Venetia. I hope all is well in the UK, and I can't wait to see you in 2023. And I am feeling better. You know, I'm feeling better. I'm still feeling a little drowsy. I'm still feeling a little loopy. And I have a little bit of a headache. My throat is feeling better. I only had symptoms for a day, really. Like I only had bad symptoms for a day. The rest of the symptoms were pretty mild. I am vaccinated and boosted. And I had, for one day, I felt pretty crummy and I basically just couldn't get out of bed. I had a fever. The next day, I woke up and I didn't have a fever. I was still tired. I was very still tired. And yeah, it's just been progressing from there. I feel almost back to normal. I'm not quite there yet. I still get a little woozy and stuff, but yeah. I'm getting better, and I really much appreciate that, Venetia. And everybody, to sum it up again, please, antitrustsummer.com. Please go there, sign the petition. It takes less than a minute, and it's incredibly important. Antitrustsummer.com. And for tour dates, romplico.com. If you want to support the show on the sustainability end, best way to do it, become a patron. Patreon.com/romplicone. For a give what you can level, you get all kinds of exclusive content, and you can watch my mini pilot. We just finished a mini pilot. We're going to be working on the movie coming up soon. Once I get better, we're going to start working on the movie. But we finished a mini pilot. It's not out yet, but it's out to patrons and Rockfin Premium members now. It's about a guy who goes through quarantine with the knowledge that he could have invested in Zoom. It's called Vroom in the world, but it's basically Zoom. And he could have invested in it because his ex-girlfriend invented it, but he didn't invest in it. So he has to go through quarantine with the knowledge that he could be a millionaire. That's what the show's about. It's a comedy. It's a goofy, quirky show. It takes place in 2020. That is my mini pilot, Loner. And you can watch that right now if you go to patreon.com/Ron Placone and sign up for a Give What You Can level. You can watch it right now, patreon.com/Ron Placone. Yes, I will be touring the UK next year in 2023. I don't know where all, but likely London, Edinburgh, maybe Manchester, maybe Leeds, Birmingham. I don't have all the plans yet, but I will be doing some UK stuff in 2023, and I will likely be tagging Iceland on with that to make up for the Iceland dates. But in the meantime, Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, those are the rest of my dates for 2022. July 28th, Portland, July 29th, Seattle, July 30th, Vancouver. RonPlacone.com for tickets. Patreon.com/Ron Placone, where you can support for a Give What You Can level. Even $1 a month goes a long way. And of course, AntitrustSummer.com. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thank you for the well wishes. Sorry if I was a little loopy. I am dealing with COVID, but I am feeling a lot better. And it was really cool to hang out with you guys for a little bit and to do an episode. Get Your News On with Ron will be a little bit touch and go until I'm fully better. This will likely be our only full-length stream for the week. I'll be coming at you with short videos and stuff like that, but this will likely be the only full-length stream for the week. But I'll be a little touch and go until I'm fully better. So just kind of stay tuned, and we'll be back to normal, or our normal schedule, rather. Is there any such thing as normal? But we'll get back to our regular schedule very soon. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she says meow, and I say peace, love, and a general strike.